Conversation. This is a topic that we often talk about, but we decided to film it this time. So, welcome to our friendship. Welcome to our world.
Welcome to Tru Life Conversations. I am Courtney, and my blog is titled The Tru Life of Courtney. This particular segment is where I come together with my friends and different individuals to talk about different things. And today, I'm excited to have Donielle back again for the second recording of this season, but you were here before. And so, quick introduction of Donielle. She is a licensed clinical social worker in the state of North Carolina. We literally just found out right before this that my girl is licensed, okay? She received her bachelor's in psychology from Spelman, her master's in social work from the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. She is certified in family-centered therapy and trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. And I am excited to have her here with me today. You can also follow her on Instagram at the Community Cultivator, where you will find different holistic, what's the word? Like holistic wellness type things for you, such as like song baths and different motivational affirmations and things of that nature. So anything else you want to add to that, Donielle?
No, that's it.
That's it. All right. So you're not a stranger. So remember, I do have 3 rules with Tru Life Conversations. One is that you just show up as your authentic self, be true, that you do it anyway, speak your truth, and have fun in the process. So I know you can do that. So we'll just move along. We'll just move along to today's topic. So I don't know what I'm going to title this one. Maybe throughout the conversation, we will like collectively come up with a title. But we are talking about the stereotype of a strong Black woman. As I was laying in the bed this morning, like pondering on this topic, I said to myself, I don't want to be a strong Black woman in 2023. I don't want it.
I've been saying that for at least a year now.
I definitely want to leave that energy in 2022. Like I can't. I won't.
It's hard though. I was laying in the bed too, and I was like, I'm exhausted. But then I was trying to justify, like, well, what do you have to be exhausted from, Donielle? Like, what really took you out? And it's like, why do I have to have a reason? Like, I'm tired. My body said I'm tired, and I'm gonna lay here.
Yeah. Yeah. We often don't give ourselves that permission to rest. And I also this morning, maybe it's just something in the air today because I didn't get out of bed till like 1:30 today. And I was just laying there and I was strolling through Instagram. I listened to some music. I went on Netflix, couldn't find anything to watch. And so I was just sitting there and I let my body rest. And around 1, I started to like tell myself, like, Courtney, you got to get up. You got to do something. You got to go clean up. You got to do this. You got to do that. And I did like forcefully make myself get up.
But today, and I didn't do it.
Wait, say it again.
I had a whole to-do list today. I didn't do it.
We have to give ourselves permission to just not do things sometimes and to rest.
But the world doesn't teach you that. Like, somebody said this to me the other day. It was like, oh, I was just being so lazy. I didn't get up and do anything. And I was like, well, why do you have to be lazy for resting? Like, you was tired? Like, you work a lot. Go to lay down, take a nap. It's okay. And they were like, oh, I guess you're right. But it's like, nobody teaches us that. And it goes back, like, when we're talking about this theory of strong Black woman, goes back to, I hate to bring this up, but like slavery. And, our ancestors are all the way back of, they had to be strong. They had to hold back their tears and care for the master's family and their own family and everyone else on the plantation. If they were like, the midwife or whoever, whatever their role was, they had to take care of everybody. They had to be strong when their children were ripped from their arms and their husbands were ripped from them. and sent off to another space. Like, they had to be strong. And although we're not in slavery anymore, that mentality has been passed down generation after generation after generation. And so here we are with battling between, like you and I, like battling between, we're professional women. I'm tired. Let me rest. But who said I had to, like, what does rest mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's who taught me that.
Mm-hmm. I think going back to what you said we're not in slavery anymore. We're not in the same type of slavery that our ancestors were in, but to a certain extent, this capitalism society that we live in is it's a little slavery, indentation under there as well. It's just a different level of it. It's modernized now.
Yeah, fall,
The
sort of, I guess.
Yeah, and so okay, I think that's a good place to start because before this, I did a little research on what is a strong Black woman. And
Mhm.
so I found a couple of different websites that had defined this, and from different from different from different perspectives. Okay, so I think the one that stood out to me the most, all of them talked about a woman who is resilient. Okay.
Mm.
All of them had a common theme of resilience, and all of them had a common theme of like being resourceful. So making something out of nothing.
Mhm.
Um, but this particular website that I wrote down, it says the idea of a Black woman is that she is emotionally resilient, naturally selfish, too proud to ask for help, and I can't even read my writing, and can succeed without resources. And so I wanted to dissect that one because they said emotionally resistant,
Mhm.
resilient,
Okay.
emotionally resilient, naturally selfless, too proud to ask for help, and can succeed without resources. Where do you want to start?
I don't like that. It's not sitting well with my spirit.
Messing with
But
your spirit.
it makes sense. But it also, I think that, I guess, modernized what I just described from slavery. They didn't have the resources,
Mm-hmm.
right? They emotionally resilient. They had to be. Their family were ripped from them. They were
Mm-hmm.
raped and beaten and all of the things. And selfless. They had to take care of the white woman child and her child. Sometimes the white woman child, not sometimes, the white woman child before her child.
Mm-hmm.
She had to be selfless. She had to put other people before herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I mean,
like, that defines what it is, but that's not healthy. That's not this
I think
bad father.
that's the point they were trying to make. I don't think anyone's trying to glorify this strong Black woman.
I think they do though.
I think society does. And that's why I appreciated this particular thing, this particular definition, because I felt like it was worded in a way that it wasn't glorified. Like, I don't think we should glorify um feeling as though we have to do everything on our own. Like, we can't ask for help, or we can't reach out to people, or we just have to do everything by ourselves. Like, that energy, that mindset should not be glorified.
Mm-mm. It shouldn't, but it is.
It is. So how do we
My question is, how do we get away from it? Like, as you can see, I get really upset because I'm really passionate about this. Like, the more I've gotten into my own healing, it's like being a strong Black woman is a trauma. This is not a badge of honor. How do I release this for myself? And how do I teach other women, Black women, to release this? Because it's not healthy.
I think you just said it. It starts with healing. It wasn't until you and I embarked on our own personal healing journey that we were able to identify this for ourselves. Or is it different for you?
I mean, yeah, I agree. I also have this thing about healing, right? Like, everybody has to do it on their own. And I have to remember that everybody's journey is not my journey, is different. So I'll be like, come on, meet me where I'm at. Let's go. Let's have this movement. Everybody be right here. And it's not happening. So then I'm still in this place of like frustration because everybody that sits on my couch or, friends around me is like, friend, I can't wait for you to let that go. Or how can I help you let that go? Because that ain't it. But I already realized it, but I can't make other people realize it just because I have.
Yeah, but I feel like we do have a responsibility to share our awareness.
Oh, I do every day.
Yeah, we definitely have a responsibility to share that awareness piece. And I don't think people can truly start that process of changing that mindset until you are aware that it is a negative mindset. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people are operating in like I'm a strong black woman, and it is a badge of honor. And I think because people don't know where that came from, it's easier to just embrace it and walk in it. But I think it starts with that awareness piece. It really does. And so the
I
other
think it's
thing,
easier for them to wear as a badge of honor because they don't know anything else. Oh, my mama did it this way, and my grandmama, big mama did it this way. So what do you like? I'm supposed to, and so they don't know anything but what they've seen.
yeah, it's
Even me, like
generational.
when we opened this up, like I had to tell myself it was okay to rest. Like although I've been on this healing journey, there's still moments where I have to say it's okay to ask for help, Donielle. It's okay to rest, Donielle. And I value my rest a lot more than what I used to, but there are still moments where I have to combat the natural instinct to like do whatever the strong black woman is or be her.
Right. So I kind of feel like we're saying some of the same. I don't know. But when you're talking about the generational piece of it, so for me, in this conversation with you, so we have identified those generational trends.
Mhm.
So for a person who has not, for the ladies out there who are walking around, I am a strong black woman. I'm going to do everything by myself. I am going to, move this couch down 5 flights of stairs because I am her. Like I can do it. Like I can do that too, but I am not going to do it. So like for that woman who's in that energy and wears it as a badge of honor, like what do you say to her? How do you I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm constantly with my friends and we're having conversations, and I'm noticing like they're tired and they're stressed out and they're talking about everything that they got to do and how they're doing it all by themselves. And I don't want my friends to operate in that energy. I don't want any woman to operate in that energy, but that is that strong black woman energy. So what do you say as a friend to one, bring awareness, and then to also encourage other women to step out of that? Like how do you do it?
My personal approach to that is I challenge.
Okay.
Um, I'm okay with challenging my friends. I'm like, well, what about this? Or is that the best thing for you? And at one point I struggled with that because I'm like, oh, that's my therapist hat, Danielle. You can't give your friends therapy. You just have to be a friend. But the more I have accepted that the parts of me that make me a great therapist also make me me. Um, and so learning to just find the balance between the two. So I don't mind challenging, but if my friend is like, and they like, all right, they're not ready, then okay, I'll take a step back.
Yeah.
Um, but that's how I do it. I'm gonna challenge you. Like, is is this what you want? Is that like, did that feel good? Like any challenging statement, because how else are they gonna gain awareness if we're the yes man? Like, girl, yeah, like, but in your head, you're like, nah, that ain't it.
Not any. Yeah, I do find myself challenging my friends sometimes, and I'm so grateful for my friend group because they don't really push back on me on anything. They be like, yeah, Courtney, you're right. And I actually was texting with a couple of my friends the other day, and we were talking about therapists, and they were like, Courtney, can you just be our therapist?
No,
And so you said no.
no. Conflict of interest. Go get your own.
Yeah, but I I don't know what I was about to say. I do appreciate my friend group for being open to when I do try to challenge them to really take care of yourself and to really step out of that energy of a strong black woman because honestly it's self-care.
Yeah.
To me it's self-care because how can I care for myself if I am putting so much pressure on myself to do all the things by myself?
Yeah.
Huh?
Because you're not gonna have anything else to give.
Yeah, you won't have anything else to give and to even give to yourself. Not even like giving to other people, but like to give to yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think stepping out of this strong black woman energy is like a form of self-love to a certain extent.
I often say, like, how can you pour from an empty cup? If your
Mhm.
cup is empty and you constantly tilt it over, nothing's going into your cup because you never sat right back up to fill up again before continuing to give.
Mhm.
So you're just pouring, pouring, pouring. Now it's not even a healthy pour. Like now, people getting drops left out the cup. It's empty.
It
Like
drip drops. You know how you like turn a I don't have an empty cup, but you know how you turn the cup over and trying to get
yeah,
some out?
nothing there. But
Yeah.
I think when you were talking there, I came up with another reason, like challenge your friends. But I think society is trying to shift with the whole like soft girl era, and I
Oh
think
yes.
has been trying to give us permission to be soft to and when I think of softness I think of the opposite of a strong black woman, right? Like you are selfish, you are emotionally well, you are calm, you are rested, um you move with ease, and I think those are all the opposite things that describe a strong black woman, but those don't make you less strong. To me, it makes you stronger because you have the courage to
Mhm.
love yourself, to pour into yourself, and to say no.
And to put yourself first. Yes.
That part.
And it takes courage to do that when we have like when the norm has been taught to us that you shouldn't do this. Like it will require a level of courage. And so I do want to put that in there to say like it's not easy. It's not easy, and so many times people have said stuff to me about, "Oh, you being selfish," or "Why you don't wanna do this," or, "You back in Louisiana, the least you can do is come here." No, this is my self-care time. Like, I have to give myself space, you know? And, outside noise, that's
I know, whole nother topic.
it's a whole nother topic, but I think we have to be honest that, it affects some of us.
I remember one, it was like, yeah, maybe like 2 years ago, I don't know, but it wasn't that long ago, and I was on the phone with my mom, and she was like, "You at home?" I was like, "Yeah, I took the day off," and she was like, "Why?" I said, "'Cause I wanted to, like, I wanted to stay at home," and she was like, "You sick?" "No." Like, it had to be a reason, like, for me to use my time. I just did it because I wanted to, like, I needed it. I'm just
Yeah.
myself first, and it was just this whole big question of, like, why?
Why? Yeah, I feel like I just recently had a conversation with my mom about this because she was complaining that my sister took off from work. And I was like, first of all, why do you care? This has nothing to do with you, for one. And for two, if that girl want to rest, let her rest. Like, yeah,
Because we
time.
save our PTO, it has to be, like, for a vacation, or you have to be sick, or you have like, it has to be for a reason. And it's like,
No, a couple of months ago, I took off and my boss was like, you have anything planned? I said, no, I'm just having a self-care day. She's like,
I took
that's
3 days
good.
off. They were like, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "Lay in my bed every day." And I did.
Yes. Yes. We have to give ourselves permission to rest. And it kind of goes back. I'm gonna go back to something you said before, because you were talking about being lazy versus resting. And so lazy, I don't know, how would you define that? To me, lazy is
Lazy is being capable of going to work, but you laying on the couch every day, not going to work and not pouring into yourself, not doing nothing, just eating your popcorn and watching TV every day, day after day, in your pajamas. Like, that's lazy. Like, come on now. What's your purpose in life?
Yeah. So rest is a more purposeful
Yeah.
is a more purposeful
Action.
what action. Yeah. It's a more purposeful action. And so resting, what does resting look like for you?
Depends on the day. Um, like today, resting was not, well, most days, it's not setting an alarm, waking up
Mhm.
when my body naturally wakes up. Um, they was laughing at me at work the other day because they were like, "What are you grateful for?" And I was like, "Slow mornings." And it's like, "Danielle, every day is a slow morning for you." And I'm intentional. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not doing no work before 10. I'm not like, no, I'm gonna make my breakfast. I'm gonna sit in the floor. I don't want to rush. So
Mhm.
resting for me is like being intentional with whatever my to-do list is or entails or whatever I have to do for the day, but being able to go at it at my own pace and not feeling this um anxiety.
Yes.
I
That's
had
the
this
word.
this big thing, and shout out to my clinical supervisor. Like 2 years ago, I was like checking my to-do list, and she was like, "Danielle, you checked it 3 times. Go take a nap." And I was like, "But I feel like I'm missing something." She was like, "You're functioning in anxiety. I would need you to go sit down." And I was like, "Hmm." And so that has stuck with me for the past 2 years that I was functioning in anxiety.
Mm.
And because of that, I always felt like I wasn't doing enough or I was missing something. I wasn't able to rest. Even if I was laying down, my mind was still replaying my to-do list in my head. Now when I'm laying down, I'm reading a book, I'm scrolling, I'm binge watching a TV show I want to watch. Like my mind isn't going
Mhm.
as much or as quickly or as fast or combination of them all.
Mhm.
So that's resting to me is just not functioning and anxiety.
Yeah.
Having
The slow mornings is so important because the mornings that I don't have meetings early, like I get up, I can cook breakfast, I can listen to a little music, I can sit on the couch. I like watching The Price is Right. That's my flow morning. And then at 11 o'clock when The Price is Right goes off, then I can, start writing my memos and taking meetings and stuff like that. Like that is the perfect day for me. Um, when I can just lay in the bed in the morning and, have that time to myself. Also, another form of rest for me is I like to just kinda sit on my sofa sometimes and listen to music. I think that is restful. So I'm just intentional about getting out of the bed because that's another thing. Because I feel like laziness is kinda sitting in the bed all day, that can be a little lazy. So I will get up and go into the living room, make me some
changing locations,
huh?
changing locations.
Change my location a little bit, sit in the living room and listen to music, and I can sit there and listen to music for hours. And when I'm done, I just feel like a whole new woman. Like sometimes I'm listening to gospel, sometimes I listen to both. I might start with gospel and go into my R&B or, vice versa. Um but I think you just have to find the thing that works for you and just give yourself permission to do it.
Because it's
Huh.
gonna look different every day.
Yeah.
Not even finding the thing that works for you. Listen to your body on the day your body says rest, and what do you need that day?
Yeah.
Because
I
sometimes
also
I stay on the floor in the silence with my fairy lights on and nothing at all. But some days I'm gonna turn my music on. Some days I'm gonna meditate in my closet. Mostly every day I'm gonna have a slow morning though. That's consistent across the board. But
I don't
it's
have
different.
that honor anymore. Slow mornings.
Nobody called me an early morning. Woo! Mm.
Yeah.
It has to be a choice for me not to have a slow morning. Like, next week, I'm going to Pilates at 9 o'clock in the morning. Mm, I chose that, right? Like, oh, okay. But that's for me. That's still part of me taking care of my body, my mind, and I'm starting to enjoy Pilates. So
Mhm.
there's that. But if somebody else was like, oh, let's do this, nah, we push that back.
Nah, player. I wish there was a way I can go in on my work calendar and just be like, slow morning. Don't schedule me any meeting. I feel like my boss
That
would
I
be
think
there.
that's part of my journey of releasing my strong Black woman badge. Is creating the life that I want, and so my one of my
Mm,
works for this year was freedom, and part of that freedom means working for myself or working in a space to where I can honor myself, be myself, and still do a great job at work. And so I have gotten to a place of not functioning in anxiety and having more rest than overworking myself because I have been intentional about creating this free life and what that looks like for me.
yes. I feel like that's a whole nother topic. Like, what does freedom look like for, I don't know, let's talk about that for a little bit because I'm actually hosting a vision board party.
Me too.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I'm doing mine on the
Last year,
30th.
so I'm gonna do mine on the first. I know it's already the new year, but it's a Sunday. It's more like a, vision board brunch. So yeah.
We always be on the same page about stuff. So I'm hosting this vision board party and I really so last year, so I do a vision board every year. And
Right.
so last year, my vision board, like the big word was established. Like I wanted to get to a place where I felt established, like in my credit and staying like where I live, like having a home. Like I wanted to step into like this level of establishment because with me moving from DC and Alabama and stuff, I kind of felt like I was just kind of moving a lot lately and then I was living with my grandmother. I didn't have my own. So I
Yeah.
wanted to be established within myself. So I have that now. And so I've been thinking about, what is the next step to to life that I want to achieve. And so when you said freedom, it immediately made me think about my vision board. And so I think that's the next step for me. I'm
Maybe that's your
established.
word for 2023 is freedom.
Yeah, I think it is because when you said it, like my heart jumped a little bit.
I've
So,
been thinking about what my word for 2023 is gonna be, and it hasn't come to me yet. I also wrote myself a letter at the end of last year. So I'm gonna read it when I come back from Michigan and write another one for next year. So I don't know what's in the letter though. So maybe it'll come to me once I read it.
and oh my God, this is so crazy because when I was sending the text inviting everybody to the vision board party, I was gonna say I want everyone to write a letter to like the old them or something so we can burn it that night. I want to do that. Um, but yeah, anyway. Um, so I think in order to, if we're talking about stepping out of this strong Black woman, that means you kind of have to know, well, you don't have to know because you told me to stop using these absolutes. Well, you don't have to know. But I think as you step out of the strong Black woman, you begin to create freedom for yourself. You begin to create the life for yourself that you truly desire. And so it may be beneficial to start pondering and thinking about what that looks like for you if you're interested in stepping out of this strong Black woman energy. What do you think about that?
Hmm, I mean, there needs to be self reflection in most of
And
the things.
everything.
Um, but I think because the strong Black woman badge, although you're carrying it, is not your trauma. It's the trauma of your mother and your grandmother and your great like you're carrying something that isn't yours. I think it just comes down to a choice, right? To decide that I don't want this for myself and maybe the freedom of just like free falling into what it is and then you can pick up what works and what doesn't work for you. what you like, what feels good, what doesn't, because the trauma isn't yours.
I hear you and I understand you, but I feel like for a person who has been operating in that energy for a very long time and that's all they know, like what does that even mean to say the trauma is not yours? Like I feel like you got to give a little more context there.
I thought I gave it.
Oh,
um, I mean, just going back to what I was saying earlier about like just slavery, just like ancestors, like most of the things I'm talking about and most of, my practice in my therapeutic practice is family system. So I always want to know the why, where did it come from? Where does it stem from? And realizing that most things aren't yours. You just learned it. And it'll become yours if you continue to carry it. But the trauma of I have to be a strong Black woman comes from 5 generations, 3 generations, I don't know how many generations we are removed from slavery and wherever else where they had to be strong. And because they had to be strong, they then taught the next person to be strong. And that person taught the next person to be strong. And they often don't know that they're doing it. They're like, oh, well, my
this
big
is.
mama did it like that, so this is how you're supposed to do it. Because
Mhm,
they haven't been exposed to any other options.
mhm.
But the more that this soft girl era
Oh,
is
that's what
taught
I wanted to talk about. I'm sorry
and
to cut you off.
believed, then maybe, that is the information that you're wanting them to get and them choosing this sound that sound nice over there. Let me just fall into that and see what it looks like for me. But you wanting to be strong is not yours because who taught you to do that? Who taught you that this was okay? Who taught you that this was the only way to be? Where does that come from? And if the answer is I came from myself, one, you a lie. And two, think again. But the answer is going to be like, oh, my grandma or my mama. And then I'm going to ask again, and who taught them?
Mhm,
And who taught them? And who taught them? And then that is the explanation of it's not your trauma to carry. Because once you ask that question, you can come up with another name of who taught that person, who taught your lineage to be strong.
mhm. I like that. So you broke it down a little bit more. That's all I was asking for. That's all I was asking for, you know. I think that was beautifully said, and I also feel like we should put uh my wording. I be trying to be cautious about how I say things, but I believe that we have a responsibility, honestly, to step out of this energy for the generations to come. And
Agreed.
so as I become a mother at some point in life in the far future, and and Donielle becomes a mother, and for all the people who already have kids, I feel like we have to unlearn that behavior so that we're not putting those same pressures on our children. And so that they can learn something different and create a different reality for their children and generations to come. Because honestly, I see how operating in this strong Black woman energy takes a toll on me, and I don't want that for anybody else. Like, I remember, so when I first moved to DC, I was in this apartment, and y'all, it was a lot of people from different countries there, and they would cook different foods, and like the whole floor of the apartment just like smelled like all kind of stuff mixed together. They had roaches, like it was bad. And so I'm in DC by myself, and I was like, Mama, I cannot stay here. So I like write this note to get out of my lease, and then I had to find another apartment, but I'm in DC 18 hours away by myself. Y'all, I moved that entire apartment by myself, and I probably cried every single day, 5 times a day, like trying to move mattresses down the stairs. And I was on the fourth floor. The
Mm.
elevator was broke 2 of the days. And I was like crying and pushing through. And at the end, I felt so accomplished. I did. But that was by far like the worst week of my life. I was literally crying every day. I had to go get a U-Haul. I had to move that bed, and I was just like, "Oh my god." I took like 15,000 trips back and forth. It was rough, but I was
And
like,
what
"I can
told
do
you
this."
that you couldn't ask for help?
Huh?
I said, and what told you that you couldn't ask for help?
I don't know. I feel like when I called my mom, she was like, "Well, I can't come." So she's like, "You gotta do it." And I was like, "Yep, gotta do it." And I mean, I definitely could have asked for help. I mean, I had people there in
Coworker,
TV.
somebody you saw outside, something.
I had people that I definitely could have called that probably would have been happy to help me. And I don't know. I felt like I had to do it myself.
Because your mom, the
'Cause
next strong Black woman in your life, couldn't do it. She's empowering me. I
to do
gotta
it
be
myself.
strong.
Yeah.
When that might not been her intention, she might have just been like, figure it out on your own because I can't come, so I don't know who's there. Figure it out on your own. It might not have been carry the bed yourself, but it's still the message of if mama can't help you,
hmm
you on your own.
hmm hmm Yeah, we got to get out of that of not wanting to ask people for help. Um,
And I think it comes down to I literally just told one of our clients about this. Is remember the book we were reading, the relational intelligence of like
mhm,
categorizing
mhm.
your friends? I was telling her about this book and I'm like, you have to categorize who you go to for what. Because in our head, it's, oh, somebody broke my trust, so I can't trust people, and so I have to do it by myself.
Oh,
When the lesson is, I can't trust
trauma.
this person, but I can trust this person. But instead of like breaking down people into categories, we put them all in one category and say, I can't trust nobody. When you just have to go to certain people for certain things. And that's not saying that you can't trust. It's saying I know and I'm intentional about where I go and where I'm putting my energy and where I'm putting certain information.
Mm, yeah. So the book that she is talking about is Relational Intelligence. This is the book. I I enjoyed this book. I read it after a breakup and I was like, the reason why this thing didn't work is because I had them in the wrong damn category. I had them in the wrong category. And so I think it was very insightful as to like what you were saying. Like you can't expect the same thing from all people in your life. You know, you have some people who are associates, you have some people who are friends. Um, it's four different ones. I don't remember all of the categories, but you have to know who people are, and it really will help your trust issues because you know I can do this with this person, I can do this with that person, I can trust this person in this way. And so I do encourage everyone to check this book out.
Knowing who you are, what you need, and who the other people are too. Because if you need emotional right now, you don't go to this person for that. You got a select few right here because everybody does not have emotional awareness, intelligence, and all the things. And so it's also knowing about like what you need.
Mhm,
And that's helpful if you categorize the people around you, then that can help you kind of like discredit. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. But break down this strong Black woman. Oh, I can't trust nobody. Oh, I can't call on nobody to help me. Oh, I got to do it by myself. No, you feel like you got to do it by yourself because these people over here didn't show up for you. But these
mhm,
people over here showed up for you, and you're still telling yourself you got to do it by yourself. But they just showed up for you. So
mhm.
why? How is that still a truth?
Yeah, I find myself there all the time where I'm like, "Oh, but they wouldn't do this or they don't mean that." And I'm like and like somebody will come and say something back like, "But they've already done this. They've already showed you, Courtney. Like, why are you still thinking this?" Um, but that's just a result of my own hurt, honestly, that I have to work on. And that self-awareness piece, y'all, I strongly encourage everyone to prioritize self reflection because the more you become self aware, I feel like it's easier to operate in a sense of freedom, to operate in a sense of like just happiness for yourself, when you know who you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so as I was doing the research before, there was one other thing on a website that stuck out to me that I was like, "Oh Lord, I'm gonna bring this up and see what Danielle says." It says that it was talking about how we should step out of this strong black woman stereotype, and it said, and we should do this because in reality, all black women are not strong.
But we are. No. We know we can be, mm.
Right. When I read that, I was like, wait, what? Huh?
Well, I feel offended. Like, I don't
I
want y'all to be
felt offended.
strong, but I'm offended. What?
I said, why do I feel offended when I just said I don't want to be a strong black woman? It's because we can, but we shouldn't have to be.
Right. I can be, but I'm choosing not to be.
Yes.
Can be, but I'm choosing to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I can be, but whatever, fill in the blank. Like, what do they mean? They need to stop because they aren't.
And that was a piece. I was like, why they just ended the sentence like this? Like, I need some more context. I need to know what you're thinking here because what you mean all black women aren't strong? We are strong. We're naturally strong. It's just that we shouldn't have to be in every situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm offended, but I don't want us to be. Like, I want us to
Yeah.
choose softness and peace and happiness and sharing the load and all the things, but I wonder who wrote the piece.
I'm gonna have to go back to it. I feel like it was a black woman that was an author.
Hmm, interesting.
I'm gonna have to find it. If I find it, I'm gonna not if I find it, when I find it, because it should be in my history. I'll pin it in the comments so y'all can go read the article in full.
Stop because they aren't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
pushing
don't
our
believe all women are created
right.
equally. And so different pressures will affect different people in different ways. So maybe that's what they're saying. Because, we could have the same situation and how I respond to it may be totally different than the way you respond to it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. But
Mm, I don't like
I'll
that.
listen. Yeah. Yeah, it triggered me too. It triggered me too. And the
But
other
that's a tale. That's, I don't know. I'm interested that I'm triggered.
why?
Like, is that the strong black woman in me? Like, hold on, but wait a minute. Gotta fight back. Like, let me prove to you that I'm strong.
That
Like,
I am strong, that we are
yeah,
all strong.
like now I'm like, well, dang, I'm offended, but why? Why am I offended?
It's a
Because
strong black woman in us.
yeah, because then it's like, because all black women aren't, but I've been telling myself I don't have to be. So then, okay, I'm not. I'm a healthy woman. I'm a healthy black woman. I'm a peaceful black woman. I'm a happy black woman.
I love these
Just,
affirmations. You said a bunch of them earlier. I move with ease.
mhm,
I am a peaceful black woman. I am a what? What you said? I am emotionally well.
mhm.
I'm gonna add some of these to my affirmations on my wall because we also need that constant reminder sometimes that hey, I can move with ease. I don't have to show up in this way. I can rest. Yeah.
And it's like one of the ones on my door is my worth is not equal to my work. Um,
Mm,
because at one point I was working myself to death. Like, why are you working this hard? But it was like the more I worked, the like, more accolades I'm gonna get or praise or whatever. And it's like my worth is not equivalent into how much work that I do. I'm worthy because I'm worthy.
Yes. Yes. I am worthy because I am worthy.
And so even that has been helpful of me like breaking down um how I show up as a strong Black woman. Like I had to carry the load and work 2, 3 jobs and see 5 clients a day. Like, this is gonna take me out.
Especially when you're a therapist, like I just look back to my direct practice days and like the pressure of like, oh, I need to get all these, I got to see all these clients by the end of this day. I got to see them twice a week. So that means I at least got to see some
Let's
Monday and
see.
Tuesday and, all that. And when you're taking on other people's trauma,
Emotions, like,
emotions, and then you also have your own trauma and emotions, and you're trying to meet your client's needs, but then also meet your needs, that can be stressful as hell. Oh my god. And it was one of the things
I'm
that kind of,
exhausted because
yeah,
emotionally, I still see people every day. Like, goodness,
that,
tired.
that's what leads to a lot of burnout in the profession. But I don't know where I was going with it. Just making a point that you can
You
get
don't
burnt
have to be
out.
strong, people. You don't have to be strong.
You don't. Now,
It's I just think it's more strength in all of the other things I just said, like happiness, peace, ease. Like, you're more courageous, you're stronger because you choose those things, because that's a life or that's a lane that isn't handed to us. And so when you choose to operate in that space, it takes more, in my opinion. Um, but it takes more like a healthy way, whereas when you're strong, it takes more out of you, but it's like depleting.
uh-huh. Like it takes more, but you still feel rested and good and, proud of yourself at the end. It's not like, I have nothing else to give. It's like now I do have more to give and I feel
I got
good
some for
about it.
y'all.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I just want more people to choose to be intentional and to know that you have permission to let it go.
You definitely have permission. I think I'm gonna add that to my vision board this year. I'm no longer a strong Black woman. I'm not. And that's okay. um One last thing that just came to my mind that I kind of want to talk about, and I don't know if you want to go there, but we can see, is the role of the Black man
Okay.
in us Black women feeling as though we have to step into this strong Black woman role.
Hmm.
I think just going off of the examples that were set for me growing up, I feel as though the women in my life that I saw being a strong Black woman, it was often because the men um left a lot of space where they just had to step up to be that. And it's unfortunate, um, but it's the reality in a lot of cases. Not just because I was talking about the women that I've seen, but I look across the board and I see that a lot is because one, either there was the absence of a Black man there, or the Black man was present but yet not present.
Mhm.
And so I think to a certain extent, as Black women step into this energy, or step into a new season of choosing the soft girl era of not being a strong Black woman, I feel like there is a level of responsibility on the strong Black man too. Um, in order to have environments where it's safe to do so, and we can still function, and we can still, you know, progress in life, especially if you are married, or if you aspire to be married, or to be in a committed relationship. And so what's your thoughts on that one?
Hmm. I agree with you. Like you said, the your examples were, the men were around but not around, and on my side, it was they really weren't. Um, I think that it's a heavy load to carry. But I think that we
For
are good.
who?
Let me finish my sentence. I think
Oh.
that we are good if we, but I think our generation is shifting the notion of strong Black woman, strong Black men. I think it's slow, but it's happening. So I don't know, we scrolling on social media and be like, oh, he had to babysit his kids, and it's like, but those are his kids. Who's babysitting? Like,
Yeah.
husband got to watch the kids, but they his kids too. And I think with more men being active fathers, that the role that the woman is just barefoot pregnant, she cooks, she cleans, she do all things, she take care of the kids. I think the men are taking care of the kids more, and I think it's starting to shift. But I think some people are still stuck on, like, this is the role of a woman and this is the role of a man.
Are you saying, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. You believe that more men are shifting their perception of the role of a woman? Or just, when you say more men, are you saying
I think
the
more men are
majority,
shifting their
or just,
role. All I'm the men around me is what I can say. But I surround myself by people who are in the same realm of me. So the men around me are going to therapy and taking care of kids and doing more active. And so I think,
baby, I need to move to Charlotte because I'm
and it's
moving
not
to
even the
Charlotte.
men, not the men. I don't know what Charlotte got going on, but like my cousins, my like brothers, like the men just like that I know are becoming more active. And so just like we go to therapy, like we are a like we may be a small percentage of women that are changing and shifting. I think it's the same thing. Like there's a small percentage of men that are shifting and changing, but I think it's our generation that is doing so that future generations, it will continue to shift.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
I do believe that there is a small group of men who are aspiring to change the narrative there. Do I believe that that is the majority? No. Have I been able to come across paths with men who are self-aware, um, and who are taking the steps to like heal their traumas and things of that nature? I would say, it's been a very few. I'm not going to say I've never, but it's been a very few. Or I've come across people who are like willing to um compromise on gender roles as it relates to like cooking and cleaning, but when it comes to like emotional and mental health, like there's no compromising there. I definitely feel like a lot of men operate in ego and operate in a hyper masculine energy, and that contributes to women having to step into the strong Black woman um energy, because this is just the type of environment that is constantly created. And so I don't know, I could be talking from my own trauma and experiences with dating, but that is just my personal um opinion. And I would love to see that change because I don't know, a lot of the times that I find myself operating in the times that I've been in relationships and I'm still operating in the strong black woman energy, it's in response to not getting enough from the person that I'm in the relationship with.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
to me, that means that there's some responsibility on their part to I don't know, create an environment where your woman, your person you're in a relationship with feels safe enough to not have to operate in that energy. Because a lot of it is like protection mode. You know, people have let me down before, so I'm just gonna do it myself. Or, you know, if you're partnered with a man who doesn't let you down or follows his word and, you know, actually puts in that effort, then I feel like I wouldn't have to operate in that energy. And so that's what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Um, it makes sense. It's everything is reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction. But I don't know. I don't know if I can say which one is that. Is the reaction or the action? I think it's just all traumatic. I
We all
after
just out here in
we
our traumas.
we're just all in our traumas and triggering each other. Um,
Yeah.
I after seeing the post about Twitch the other day, that was like super heavy for me. Like
It
first thing you
was.
see on social media, and I text you know, men in my life, and some of them I don't even talk to that often, and I try to give them permission. Like you are loved. I hope that you can be vulnerable to whoever you're with or your friends, or, you know, make your tribe and find a therapist if you haven't found one. And, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable and to be soft and open up. And you said like men function in this ego, but just like a woman feels like, oh, I can't show up in the space because I can't trust you to do X, Y, and Z. Men emotionally don't show up because they've been hurt or they've been told from 5 years old, don't cry, don't be a punk, don't quit acting like a little bitch, or you know, whatever. Like, so it's hard to say what is a reaction, what is an action, because we all have been exposed to traumatic ideals that have been carried out through generation to generation. And so I can't say anyone's to blame, but everyone's to blame at the same time. But like it's about giving a woman permission to be soft and a man permission to be vulnerable. Um, and vice versa, a woman permission to be vulnerable and a man permission to be soft, and so that we can show up in these ways that we want um to be healed in.
I conversation just got heavy, but I I agree with what you're saying. I think in addition to that, you also have to give yourself permission to feel that. And so you said like the woman has to give the man permission to be vulnerable and vice versa, but that man has to also give himself permission to be vulnerable. And I have to give myself permission to be vulnerable. So I think that's a big important piece to it. And you said something else. Um and maybe it'll come back to me, but I also was very emotional when I saw that, and I didn't know anything about him. Never watched Ellen a day in my life, I don't believe. But so many of our black men are fighting with things that we just don't see. And I constantly, as a black woman, I find myself, well, I can't even say that we don't see because I see it.
I see it.
I see it, and I have conversations with people, and I'm seeing through the stuff that they're saying, and I see that they're putting on this mask, and they're this strong black man, and I'm like, just be vulnerable with me, just open up, like I see through this, like just talk to me. And so I find myself constantly in a place of where I'm being extremely empathetic. I
Mhm.
am being extremely empathetic, but that is also tiring too within itself because I feel like in that I am still being a strong black woman. I'm being empathetic to your
So
traumas.
carry the load.
I'm carrying the load of that and I'm trying to meet you where you are and it I don't know. I constantly find myself feeling depleted in some of my interactions with black men and I hate this reality and I don't even know what to do with it because I want to be there, and I want to offer that support and I want to be, a light when I can be. But it's depleting me too. And so I feel like one, if I can challenge black men, it's just like it's okay to be vulnerable. Like it's okay to open up. It's okay to talk about the things that you may have been growing up, people told you you shouldn't talk about and so on and so forth. Like I don't know what to do because it's a tough situation to be in. What you think?
This segment was about being a strong black woman and it being a trauma. But as a culture, man or woman, it is a trauma for us all. And I think that we should just all give each other and ourselves permission to release it, to thank our ancestors for doing what they had to do, but being intentional about changing it for the generations to come. And it may not change with our generation. We may just been a little drop in the puddle and the ripple effect will hit a generation or two later. Um, but I think there is a shift because there's a load with being the first one to do it too, right? Like that's something to carry too. I'm the first person to go to college. I'm the first person in my family to do it. Like that carries something else too. And I think as a generation, we may be the ones to feel that. Um,
You still showing up in empathy. Like everything you're
and I,
saying right now is
I can't
empathy.
show up any other way though.
I can't show up any other way either, but how do you navigate that? Because what I'm saying that it's still stressful.
I don't think it's about balance though. Like I can be empathetic towards you and no longer carry it. And I think that's what I've learned on my journey of releasing my strong woman parts of me is realizing that I don't have to carry it for everybody else. I can feel for you, I can be there for you, but when it becomes too much for me, I have to take a step back.
Yeah. That's right. I definitely, and that may lead us into our next conversation about boundaries and walls.
Okay,
Perfect.
segue. Okay.
So yeah, Danielle and I will be back to talk about boundaries and walls because we do have to set those boundaries for ourselves. We can't, constantly deplete ourselves because we're trying to save other people. We got to save ourselves first too. Um, and you got to find balance within all of that because you can't be an asshole either. So it's like, yeah,
Balance is key.
balance is key, and so we'll come back and talk about that at another point. But I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to say to kind of wrap this one?
Are real heavy, real quick.
It did. Like my whole energy just got.
Yeah, I
Whew,
feel it. I don't know.
I don't know.
My ears started ringing too. So whatever message y'all get from this, y'all was supposed to get this message. Just letting y'all know. Just letting y'all know. But I don't have any closing remarks. I think my main thing is to give yourself permission and give others. And I think it's important to do both because sometimes we struggle with giving ourselves permission And the reality is when somebody else gives us permission, it's easier, or opens the door for us to do it for ourselves. And so give it to yourself and give it to others. That way it's a full circle moment. Um, you don't have to be strong. You don't have to carry the trauma. Put it down.
Put
Easier
it
said than done,
down.
but, put it down.
Put it down. I like that. I think to sum this one up is, as Donielle said, what happened? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did, but nothing happened.
Oh, okay. Um, as Danielle said, being a strong Black woman is a trauma. And I think we definitely have to recognize it for what it is. And as you recognize it for what it is, I think it opens the door for self reflection, an opportunity for you to become more self aware in areas that you may be showing up as a strong Black woman, and how that may be depleting you in other areas of your life. It may bring to the light where you can practice more self love and more self care. And as you do those things, you are healing yourself, and you're healing the generational trauma that you have been that has been passed down to you. And so it is a process. It's not just like a button you can turn off and say like, oh, I'm no longer a strong Black woman anymore. Even with me and my awareness, I'm constantly having to remind myself, like I'm constantly, showing up in this strong Black woman energy. And then I have to say, Courtney, you're doing it again. Like you gotta hold on, rest. So just be gentle with yourself, give yourself grace in the process. But I do pray that as we go into this new year, that we are stepping out of this energy of the strong Black woman, and we are more um grounded and just happy and flowing through life with freedom and with ease. That's truly what I desire for each and every woman in the world. Okay. And it starts with I don't know, it just starts with making the conscious decision to step out of this energy. So that's all I got.
Yeah. Our ancestors don't want this for us. Come
They
on.
don't. They don't. All right, y'all. So until next time, I hope you all enjoyed. If you are in the Charlotte, North Carolina area and you're looking for a therapist, hit up my girl. She she has been my therapist plenty of times, and she is great. Okay, she is absolutely great. So her information is down below. Make sure you check her out. She's on psychologytoday.com.
Mhm.
You can check her out there, and then also on Instagram at the Community Cultivator. All right. So until next time, bye y'all.